So on the subject of arrays, this is an old example that Kevin Doherty cooked up a while ago. Kevin and I know that for years, students in this program have all somehow been becoming experts in pizza cutting, so we picked a relatable example. If we run it, it just allows you to enter a pizza diameter, and it validates the range, so 11, for example, is out of range. And if we were to put in 28, it'll tell us it can be cut in 16 slices. Very nice. Good tooltips. Note the documentation here and the naming. You can use this one as an example. There's a big descriptive header that we'll be looking for. You really need a header. Use this as a template if you like. Everything in this program more or less happens in the button Cut Pizza Click event. There are some declarations here under a nice big heading in the comments, and down below there's an array declaration. And what this array is, if we go back up to the header, is a representation of this information relating the ranges and the numbers of slices. In each case, the upper limit, or upper diameter, is used, and then it looks up the number of slices from the same row of the array. Note how this array declaration is written. You can write it all on one line, but personally I kind of like it as the rows and columns. I find it helps me more easily understand the concept of rows and columns existing as data. Of course, you're free to write it however you like. This is my personal preference. So here, there are 4 rows and 2 columns. A Boolean value is here to determine if the program is in error. This is just used to have somewhat cleaner code. There's a bit of a conversion here, and a bit of data validation. Note that we're working in VB, so we have access to this very nice isNumeric feature. Once I know the diameter is valid, we can use this for loop to look up the correct number of slices from the array. I declare a row counter. The textbook uses I and J, and I know that that's a convention, but I don't consider it good variable naming based on our style guide and/or common sense. We're starting the counter at 0 and using the getLength method of the array class on this array. Since we're working with a 2-dimensional array, we have to supply the dimension which we're looking for the length of. This says 0, so we're looking for the first dimension, or the row length, which right now is set up to be 4 since there are 4 rows. But we need an index value, and the index is 0 based, so we've got a -1 here. This way the for loop will count from 0 up to 3 through all 4 rows, rather than 0 to 4, which would go out of bounds. Here at the end, if I found the right spot in the array prior to reaching the end, we can skip further iterations in this loop by setting up a new value for the row counter. We'll implicitly set the row counter to whatever the value was when we found the right value. So once we have found that the diameter entered is less than or equal to the first column of this specific row, then we take the number of slices variable and we assign it to whatever's at the second column of that same row. Current row, second column. This line, as we hinted at earlier, would stop the processing of the for next loop. At the end, we'll go ahead and assign the number of slices as a part of a concatenated string to the message and display it. The error flag is set to false, and it's good to go. In some ways, there's lots here for you to look at in review for the first exercise, and it's a reasonable example of declaring, assigning, and working with multidimensional arrays. Specifically, I think you'll really want to observe this line and know how getLength works.